communicative.
Okay, want to do that one role play?
You want to play in the communication area? Okay.
Parents discuss the options they could do, and say if they're coming on the creative table, they would talk about maybe what they're going to make and what resources they would need. There's members of staff who have little recording devices, and we observe the children to see what skills they're transferring. You know, from the lessons we actually teach them, to see if they're transferring those skills into their free play and free choice activities.
Negotiated learning is being introduced in reception and Year 1 classes, but the aim is to roll it out across the whole school.
At that point, we anticipate as a school we're probably going to need to apply for some sort of official permission to innovate, but our aim is much bigger than just autonomy. It's actually about the co-construction. That's what motivates the teachers, because they can see the children buying into education and buying into learning in a way that actually traditional models don't seem to support quite so well. It does very much put a child at the centre of the learning, and in that sense it's very much the future.
Potentially you've then got 60 children in reception classes. You've got potentially 60 different projects or topics they want to cover.
Yes, strategically for a school, that's the rub. What you're trying to do is lead them towards general areas that you know you have the resources to be able to facilitate. So it may be, for instance, that as part of the discussions there's a collective interest in transport, or there's a collective interest in dinosaurs.
But if more help is required, does it need to come in human form? As these children from Springfield Primary in Sheffield are about to find out, artificial intelligence is starting to become really clever.
My name is Ken, and I'm here to talk to you about your photographs. When was this photo taken?
Springfield School.
Thanks very much.
Tell me a joke.
We haven't finished all the photos yet.
They're the first children to interact with an artificial intelligence developed by Oxford Internet Institute and Sheffield University.
Patient.
Doctor, I keep thinking I'm a pair of curtains. Doctor, pull yourself together.
This project is called Senior Companions, an initiative that's being funded not to educate children, but help the elderly.
The general idea is to create a computer entity, which could be in anything. It could be in a mobile phone, could be in a laptop, could be a little plastic rabbit, that people will have with them for a long period and will talk to them. It'll help to keep them happy, as a pet is said to keep an owner happy. It'll assess their emotional state, but above all it will have conversation and elicit stuff about their lives, so it gets to know about them and their habits.
Similar technology has the potential to enable conversations with figures from history.
What's your job?
I used to be Prime Minister.
What are you now?
Now I'm dead.
Is it better than watching, say, videos?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you get to talk to them.
And in a video you don't actually get to talk to them. Like this you can.
Are you scared of Adolf Hitler?
I'm not scared of anything.
I personally would have loved this when I was teaching my topic on World War II. It was kind of his thoughts on Hitler and how he felt during the war. Did he actually get scared? Was he scared of Hitler? And things like that. Whereas we're just so used to him being this British bulldog figure that you don't think about the person inside. It's just this figurehead. So I think that was quite an interesting emotional response from the children.
Unbeknown to the children, the questions are being answered not by Prime Minister Churchill, but Professor Wilkes. A human-free version, however, should be a reality in months rather than years.
If what you want to do is to learn German verb forms, then there's a whole bunch of software you can get that will teach you German verb forms. But we're talking about something more structured and more interesting than that, something that you learn, as with a real teacher, by asking questions and interrogating.
If what you've got here is going to be developed for education, it needs someone out there.
Absolutely. Just as in the Companions Project, we've got people on board who are experts in the psychology of old people, because we can't know what old people want in advance. So similarly with education, we can't know what to be pedagogically successful.
Men will still say, this was their finest hour.
A different perspective on the future is found at this school in Massachusetts. Here the future must start by getting away from the past. The Sudbury Valley School has swept away everything that's connected with the beginning of mass education: classrooms, timetables and teachers.
Other traditional schools are based on the idea that in order for a person to learn, you have to feed him information that you've pre-digested and pre-chosen. And that has nothing to do with the 21st century, where people are really in control of their own destiny.
You're saying that model was created for what, the Industrial Revolution?
Well, when the Industrial Revolution started, there were no schools, mass education. That was something that was developed when people realized that machines back in the early industrial age did not have the kind of feedback that machines have today. You had to have somebody man them. They could do just a certain amount of the work, and the rest had to be done by people. That meant you had to get people who were parts of the machine.
There are 200 on roll, aged between 4 and 19, and so long as they keep within the rules, they can spend their day doing whatever they please.
I don't see any reason to treat children different from other people. My experience is that they're human beings just like everybody else. And to view a child, certainly after they become articulate and they can make some judgment, which is usually about 4 or 5, to view a child as any less competent to make decisions for themselves than adults, it's ridiculous.
What are you going to do today?
The school is open between 8:30 and 5:30, but children can arrive at a time that suits them, so long as they stay for 5 hours.
The freedom and the being able to do what you want, that's all very nice, but what I think is probably what's helped me the most is simply I've actually met people and befriended people here who actually treated me well. You know, in my old schools, for whatever reason, the majority of my friends weren't really friends.
Shows your uniform.
Oh, yes. It also has increased my confidence. Hi!
Do you know there are some people who might be a bit shocked that you're spending the school day playing cards?
Bridge is a good intellectual exercise. There's there's some math involved and there's a lot of logic. So it's not just a game. It's useful in learning and stuff too.
I'm making the 5th scarf of this week.
Why?
Because I can, and I just learned how.
I like Shakespeare. It's just really cool.
You're happy doing this by yourself rather than getting in a teacher?
Yeah. It's not that hard. I'm listening to it on YouTube, and I'm also reading it at the same time. Gives you sort of an idea of how you should say it.
What teachers can do sometimes, if a person wants a specific answer to a specific question, they can give them that. But the most of us in life, we go about learning things. I mean, you and I and anybody else really, if they think about their lives, they'll realize that most of what they got out of life, they've learned somehow on their own, and they found ways to find out what they want to know rather than have sitting in front of somebody who's telling them.
So you expect then a child to sort of stumble across Shakespeare? Or...
Well, no, not really, because they're sitting and talking and hearing other people stumble across these things. The whole of humanity stumbled across these things. I mean, imagine yourself in Shakespearean England, you know? He wasn't even that much more famous than the other people. All of humanity has stumbled over time, over the kinds of things that we now treasure. And there's no reason to think that people won't pick out of all the world of information new things that people will treasure.
There are 11 members of staff employed by the school who keep an eye on the children and their activities.
Well, I spend a lot of time walking around and just seeing what's going on so that if people need anything, they can find somebody and get the help that they're looking for.
Do they ever ask you any questions?
Oh, sure. Sometimes they're more theoretical questions like why are the leaves turning orange, and sometimes it might be a question about what to do about contesting a traffic ticket or pretty much anything.
Another member of staff is a former pupil who went on to find success in 2 separate careers, one as a chef and the other as a rock star. Cowboy Mac Bell is on the left as lead singer with the Joe Perry Project.
James Brown says, I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Just open up the door and I'll get it myself. That's my philosophy. I try to help maintain the music rooms, show people where the door to the music room is, get them in there, and then I kind of stand back and let them get it themselves. This is a place where the teachers don't do it for you. There's no workbook to follow. It's really learning in the trenches, which more and more with the kind of new business and new possibilities out there, it's a great experience. It's a real experience.
No, I never wanna
Next to the music rehearsal rooms is an area dedicated to another popular pursuit: video games.
Well, they wiggle when they're shy.
Could someone explain to me how this helps you with your learning?
I think it helped a little with my reading abilities, because when I first came here, I wasn't very good at reading because I really didn't find anything that was very interesting. And when I first came here, the video games were pretty much text-based. You had to be able to read to use them properly, so I basically taught myself how to read with video games, and with the help of a few interesting books.
Books can be found in almost every room in the school, but children are not taught to read. They become literate, like everything else, when they want to.
What are you working on?
Just a story.
What's it about?
I'm not gonna say.
Pupil empowerment extends to running the school. Whole school meetings make the policy decisions, while a judicial committee enforces the rules. Today, these pupils have been charged with chalking on the pathway in front of the school. The committee decides it amounts to littering.
John, how do you plead to littering for driving?
Guilty.
Haru?
Guilty.
Lillian?
Guilty.
All right.
All right, all in favor of giving them all outside pickup next available 4 days?
All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
Sudbury Valley is unimpressed by moves towards greater personalisation or negotiated learning. It has to be all or nothing.
It's still patronizing. As a matter of fact, it's worse than the most traditional and rigid of the other schools. Traditional schools that are rigid, at least 90% of the people who go there hate them and they know the enemy. A school that is allowing you to have a little bit of freedom, seduces you into thinking that the little bit of freedom where you're really being manipulated is the real thing. And that opens you to being manipulated all your life.
The Sudbury Valley model has been adopted at more than 30 other schools, mostly in North America, but also on a smaller scale in Denmark, Holland, Belgium and Germany. Nowhere is it considered the soft option.
It's the hardest school to be in, and you ask the kids and they'll tell you it's the hardest school to be in.
Why?
Because if you're told what to do all day, it's like taking care of you all day, right? You don't have to make decisions. Here, a kid has to make decisions. The kids aren't happy here all day. The kids are thriving all day and they're active all day, but they go through all the ups and downs of mistakes, of learning from mistakes, of falling on their faces, picking themselves up again. It's a very, very hard existence, and they have to prioritize their time, and they have to sit and say, well, what is that I really want to do? They have to really find out who they are.
If current trends continue, learners will be taking much greater responsibility for their education. If predictions are correct, technology will emerge to support autonomy in learning at home, in school or in the community.
My name is Ken and I'm here to talk to you about
Personalisation and technology. Two drivers for change which are coming together and creating the potential to revolutionise education for the next generation. It's really a question of where the personalisation line will be drawn. But more importantly, perhaps, who draws the line? Politicians, parents, educators, or children themselves? You can look further into the future of learning and teaching and also find a specially prepared set of tomorrow's teacher lesson plans and resources by going to teachers.tv/tomorrow.